Please welcome on stage Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe.
He has served as the Prime Minister of Sri Lanka on 5 occasions and leads the largest and oldest party in the country. Please welcome our keynote speaker, Ranil Wickremesinghe.
Your Excellencies, Mr. Sudhir Chowdhury, CEO and Editor-in-Chief of WION, His Excellency, Mr. Pawan Kapoor, Indian Ambassador to the UAE, and two of my friends, Her Excellency Maria Didi and His Excellency Ram Mahadeva, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I am honored to be at the third edition of the World Global Summit. WION is not only India's first international news channel, but also a pioneer amongst the South Asian electronic media in creating a global platform to present the geopolitical analysis of recent global trends. This is welcome at a time when South Asia is growing in importance. The critical challenges we face include the ability to succeed in the economic integration of the South Asian region, making us the fourth trading bloc, to manage the regional conflicts, the geopolitical impact of these development matters both to us and the rest of the world. You are providing the analysis which will help us to charter our course. We are assembled here today to deliberate on how to navigate and negotiate the global imperatives of today. Let me outline a few of the trends for which we must be prepared. The world is suddenly experiencing an unprecedented multi-area transitions. Never since the Industrial Revolution, which started 200 years ago, have political, economic, social changes interacted simultaneously, as is now beginning to take place. Virtually unprecedented in history. So much of this is so rapid that policymakers do not have time to adjust. This transformation was aptly described by His Holiness Pope Francis as, "This is not merely an era of change, but a change of an era." This is an era which is witnessing the end of the Western global dominance, an era being shaped by new forces. One, the sudden rise of China in economic, military, and political spheres, challenging the unipolar world by attempting to remodel the existing global order. The resulting globalization is shaping a new global competition in all spheres. Two, the climate change. We are today witnessing the impact of the climate change due to industrialization, GDP growth, and population growth over 2 centuries. Melting glaciers, increase in the ocean temperatures, and the rising sea levels. An impact of such magnitude, which resulted in a schoolgirl, Greta Thunberg, today a household name, challenging the US President Donald Trump. The rules-based model on which globalization rests is facing challenges. A good example is the World Trade Organization grinding to a halt. Transnational actors who are expected to uphold these rules are acting their self-interest and withholding such support. Technology brings about far-reaching changes in the systems of global governance. And fourthly, the rising importance, the geostrategic importance of South Asian region and the Indian Ocean. Politically, we are living in a multipolar world where every major power center has suddenly begun to experience unexpected internal pressures of serious kinds. China, 1 year ago, was very strong and stable. Now, coronavirus has rapidly destabilized the economy. For the first 3 decades, the country, ever expanding international affairs, is brought to a halt by a virus which is testing its health services to the limit. Maybe it is only China that can face trade war and coronavirus simultaneously. They face Trump and coronavirus, and they are passing it down to us now. America, the major economic and military power, political dividers as never before, heading for an uncertain election. A new America First policy has abandoned the sole superpower concept and is alienating friends, has resulted in a new attempt to function with a fewer allies than before. One of the great political achievements of our time, now divided and weakened with a rising anti-EU right. A Brexit which has left UK searching for trade partners in all corners of the world with an uncertain impact on the medium-term economy. They are also now feeling the impact of the coronavirus. I read today the first European regional airlines flyby has collapsed due to the disease. And UK has stated they are shifting from containing the outbreak to delaying the outbreak. Big companies like Sony, Apple, Nike are closing down their offices in different parts of Europe. Russia, technically strong nuclear power, who's now trying to make the international political systems adjustments and fearful of the sudden drop in oil prices. This is the basis of its economic power. Middle East, I need not expand, now unprecedentedly divided with divisions getting worse. So much of this was unexpected and so recent and very destabilizing. Economics. The continuing shift of balance to Asia and its interconnectedness is making the whole system vulnerable to regional developments with enormous speed. Best example is coronavirus, which has resulted in China, the factory of the world, bringing the global value chains either to a halt or to a slowdown, affecting a number of other economies. For example, Sri Lanka's own apparel trade is coming to a halt because we can't get our fabrics from China. We have seen the upsides of globalization. Now we are facing the downside of globalization. The GDP growth worldwide is projected to slow down further in 2020, witnessing the lowest growth after ending of the financial crisis in 2009. The temporary truce in US-China trade war may end after the US presidential election. Recommencing the trade war will create a further negative impact on the global trading system. There is unlikely to be a change for the better in regard to the weakness of the Japanese economy. The Indian Ocean, the lifeline of global commerce, is now witnessing the competing strategies of US and China. A complete contrast to Henry Kissinger's US, Pakistan, China triangle. The road from ping-pong diplomacy to Trump-Modi diplomacy. The new China-centric Belt and Road Initiative is being countered by the US Indo-Pacific concept and the Quad. As a result, South Asia is faced with competing Chinese and US strategies. An intensified arms race in the region is the consequence. Nevertheless, India is promoting a more inclusive approach than the minilateral Quad while reaching out cautiously to China. We in South Asia must determine our own destiny. History has taught us the consequence of promoting outside involvement for short-term gains. All military and political power rests on economic power, which we lack. Economic integration of our region is the only answer. It is also a disincentive to war. Then, are we to be caught amidst outside competing strategies or be secure within our own strategies? A few decades of unprecedented speed, dislocation, disruption of major powers may lead the way in shaping this new era. Building capacity and staying relevant has therefore become our biggest challenge. The primary task of policymakers is now to fashion a new global agenda that will be able to cope with the sudden arrival of black swans, crises without much notice, and shape mechanisms of regional and global response because existing mechanisms have proven to be inadequate. These have to be inclusive, youth-oriented, regionally balanced. The traditional model was heavy on the participation of governments and established institutions. The most effective future model will have to be something much wider and more horizontal than vertical. Part of these efforts will have to focus on new forms of education, both formal and informal, and the development of new funding sources. For instance, the international tax of a few pennies on each mail. Now, I made myself an enemy of most of you. Next 15 years are going to be critical in defining and creating platforms for shaping the rest of the 21st century. If we do not make use of this opportunity, we could have a world of deadly chaos. So let me conclude by emphasizing, first, time is not on our side. Events cascade with an urgency that call for action. If we do not respond, others with less benign objectives will forestall us, and the opportunity to shape prospects and capture the imagination of the next generation will be lost. Second, as we know, the confidence of younger people today in the existing mechanisms of government is not very high. We need to provide some organizing structure that will build enthusiasm and can eventually mobilize private-public cooperation across age barriers. Building for the future must also make stakeholders of those whose lives will unfold in the future. This is why I believe our priority should not only be to urgently answer the questions we have discussed, but as important to question are traditional answers. The WION Global Summit should be a starting point in such an effort, should be reconvened with more specific agenda soon to that end. This summit should set up a steering group to organize specific further efforts. Thank you.